Happy anniversary, happy anniversary, happy anniversary, happy anniversary.
Welcome to Ladies Talking Leafs, episode 23 of season 3. I'm Chris.
And I'm Sil.
And we hope you are all enjoying these last few weeks of summer. And welcome to our 3rd anniversary show. It's been a great 3 years, and it's all because of you, LeafsNation, that we are going strong. And we thank you so much for listening and following us.
I can hardly believe that this has been 3 full years. And of course, this is the first kind of full calendar during all this COVID craziness that we've gotten through. And yeah, we cannot thank our listeners enough for the support. We so appreciate you.
Yeah, it's a huge thing for us. Can't believe we've managed to go on 3 years, but yeah, no, it's definitely because the listeners keep us going and our followers on social media too. So, before we get into the anniversary episode, we do have some things that have come up since our last show that we want to mention. First off, we want to send our best wishes to Boreas Salming and his family. Salming announced that he has been diagnosed with ALS, and he's one of the greatest Leafs of all time. And it was a real shock when he sent this message out on social media. I don't know. He's 71 years old. And the guy he's so fit in pictures that he puts on Instagram. Follow him on Instagram and on Facebook. And yeah, it's just, it's sad. He's really it's going to be one of the toughest things, basically for his life. And he's a legend for the Leafs. He is on Legend Row. He has a statue there, and he was named to at the centennial anniversary of the Leafs in 2016. He was named number 8 in the top 100 greatest Leafs. And then one thing I just wanted to read, and that he said when he was named as one of the top 100 Leafs, top 100 in NHL players, and that was also at the centennial of the NHL. He said, "Today I always say to everybody, this is the Mecca of hockey." He's speaking of Toronto, of course. And he said, to play here, and I say that all the years I played with Toronto, everybody who got traded there, who came here, everybody said, my dream as a hockey player was to be playing for the Toronto Maple Leafs. And I don't know. I got emotional there. I'm a little bit emotional now. I managed to control myself, but he's an icon for us here in Toronto, and yeah. So we wish him well and hope he wins this. We want him to win the battle.
Absolutely, definitely. It's devastating news. I can't hardly imagine. I think even for anyone, it's horrible, but for someone who makes their living, physically, to lose that thing that, you basically your whole identity is wrapped around is got to be so difficult. And of course, our heart goes out to him and his family. On a more positive note, we have a positive news item when it comes to players' health, and that is the story of Rodion Amirov, who announced on social media just this weekend that he is back to practicing with his KHL club for the first time since being diagnosed with a brain tumor in February of this year. So I think in Salming's case too, I believe that when you're an elite athlete, that really holds you in good stead when it comes to being able to, get healthy and, manage and handle all the treatments you have to have. And so this is just great news for Rodion. And of course, we're rooting for him to, basically be able to come back stronger than ever.
Yeah, I was looking at the video, I guess, of him at that first practice. And it was great to see, for what he's been through and the chemo treatments. like in just these last few months, it's really unbelievable that he was back on the ice, and you saw the smile, right? And that's just huge for him. I'm sure, like, just to, when you have that smile after what you've been through, like, that's just gonna like take him on to better things ahead. And again, we hope that it just continues this positivity, and that he's been positive throughout, which is great. So he obviously has a great, I guess, support with the family and that. And yeah, we wish him the best to continue on practicing. They didn't say if he was going to actually play any games coming up, but at least he's taken the first step, and he can move on from there.
Yeah, I think the having that love of the game that they have, like that's a huge motivation, you know, and it's gives them that positivity. And like you said, they've got a lot of support around them, including support from their clubs, which includes the Leafs. So so good for him.
Yeah, and it's great. Like Kyle Dubas, like, and the Leafs are really good with that and helping players, especially when they help them all the time, but especially when you have this type of devastating news when it comes to your own health and like life in general. The Leafs are really good at supporting players. So that's good. So it's good to see him on the ice. And so now we're going to move on to a couple of quick NHL notes. The league announced that the World Cup of Hockey will return in 2024. I don't know how you feel. How do you feel about this?
Trying to recoup, the first thing I thought of is like trying to recoup some of the money they lost during all this COVID time. What better time and better thing to do than put on a splashy event like this? I think they also know that the players, having not been able to go to the last Olympics, are really, they love to play for their countries, right? So I don't know how they're going to organize this, if they're going to have like a team North America like they did before with the Young Guns team. They might not do that again, but anyway, it's a fun event, but I'm no doubt it will be very expensive.
Yeah,
to see it live.
I mean, I guess because we didn't attend any of the games at the last one when they had that Team North America. I don't know. For me, I'm thinking it would probably be more exciting for me if it would have continued having the tournament from like after 1996. And then the next one, I guess, was in 2004. I guess that was the last one that they had. Like for me, it's and for you too, I'm pretty sure it's the tradition, like to have that continuously. But to me, it's like you're saying, it's expensive and it's a money grab.
Especially when they don't really, like you're saying, like they don't really seem to commit to it, and they just sort of bring it out of, the closet when they seem to want to do something. To me, that's not the way to build excitement around it. Like, look at what they've done with the World Juniors, for example. Like now it's sort of a staple event. And of course, we all know what happened now that they had to move it to August. It was like almost a non-event. It was great that, the Team Canada won and everything, but it wasn't watched. It's a tradition, because now there's a tradition built around it at Christmas time, right? It's similar to the way it goes with, football at Thanksgiving in the States. So that's what they kind of need to do. They need to commit to putting on an event and doing it consistently so that, generations to come will be looking forward to it. But unless they're going to commit to doing that, this is just going to be something that they bring out every once in a while.
Yeah. Because I mean, I went to the games in 1991, the Canada Cup games in Hamilton, like the drive, the excitement. It was just different back then, the excitement. But that's because like there was the tournament before that, the 1987 one. And there was like, it was a tradition, right? So that's how I kind of got hooked on it. But I don't know. We'll see what the NHL does anyways with this.
They haven't announced where it's going to be though yet, have they?
Not that I know of, no. No, yeah. So we'll see how it goes.
So the NHL also announced the 2023 NHL awards and the NHL draft are going to be held in Nashville this year.
Yeah.
So that's going to be quite the splash. They always put on really good events in Nashville, so I'm looking forward to seeing that. And just to cap things off, news just off the wire. The Canadian women have come through again, defeating the women from Team USA 2-1 to win the gold medal at the Women's World Championships. So congratulations to them.
Yeah, congratulations to them. That's the thing that I saw there was one of the saves. I think it was late in the third period that Anne-Marie Desbiens, I believe is her name, the goalie for the women's team. She made a spectacular save. Anyways, it was all over social media and all that to keep it at 2-1, and that was huge. But congratulations to the Canadian women.
So. Before we get into the show proper, a reminder that you can find links to any of the articles that we discuss on our show notes, which are attached to all of our episodes. Check them out to get more details on what we discuss. All right, so let's get to it. In this episode, we are starting off with, well, it's our anniversary episode. So we're going to take you back to when it all began for Ladies Talking Leafs with our origin story. It's a chance for us to reintroduce ourselves to our more seasoned listeners and to get to know those of you that may be experiencing us for the first time. Next up, we're going to have a Leaf update, and we're going to discuss some questions we posed and their responses from a recent social media poll that we did. And you'll also want to stick around for our third period segment, as we are going to give you the details on how to win our third annual anniversary contest. So without any further ado, let's talk Leafs.
All right, so off the top, we want to tell you that you'll find a lot about us and our show at our website, ladiestalkingleafs.com. And we made some updates there recently, so go check that out.
Yeah, we also did a couple of interviews when we were guests of our friends at Hockey Time Machine, and you can go to our YouTube channel and find those videos there. Again, the links to our website and all of our social media are available in our show notes.
I can't believe that it's actually been just over a year since we did our initial interview on Hockey Time Machine. So that was really fun experience. Yeah, yeah. So so want to introduce ourselves a little bit just to give you an idea as to how we became Leaf fans. For myself, I guess I was probably about 10 or 11 years old when I first got into watching the Leafs. And basically, I'm the only person in my family that had a passion for the Leafs or got a passion for the Leafs. And I got that through my Uncle John. And he always watched hockey. So I always joined him in front of the TV watching Hockey Night in Canada. And then basically I was watching mostly through the 80s, watching the craziness that came from Harold Ballard. And and my favorite players are Wendell Clark and Rick Vaive. So go ahead, Sil. How'd you become a Leaf fan?
So I think, our story is probably really similar to a lot of people's. And for me, it was a family thing also, but it was something special that my dad and I did together. I do have a brother, but somehow I was the one that ended up being the big hockey fan. And you could find me sometimes sitting with my dad on his lap when I was really little. But then, as I got older, on the couch with him every Saturday and Wednesday, watching Hockey Night in Canada and yelling at the TV a lot of the time. And so I watched, all the way through growing up, 70s, 80s, just like Chris. And at that time, my favorite players were Mike Palmateer, because I just loved goaltenders, and then later on, Dougie Gilmour was my favorite player.
Yeah, because you were a goalie, right?
I played. Whenever I played sports, that was a team sport, I usually played goal. So like for soccer, and then in high school, I was a field hockey goalie. So field hockey's obviously very different. But yes, so I like to channel those great Leaf goaltenders.
Yeah, and this is going to be interesting now. I didn't actually tell Sil what the memory I was going to mention here. We have some favorite Leaf memories throughout the years. We met probably about 30 years or so ago, and so we've got a lot of memories together. So I'm going to mention my first memory that I thought is kind of funny, and it was good anyways. When we both won cell phones at Maple Leaf Gardens.
That was hilarious. On different weeks.
Yes, then it was preseason, wasn't it? I think it was.
So.
You won the first one.
They had the Nokia phone giveaway,
and it was the block kind of phone too, like it was a small block phone.
It had a little antenna that you had to pull up.
Yeah.
And at the time, we thought this is really fantastic because it's so small. Because the beginning, you can remember, I don't know if people used to watch Miami Vice and they had those big, huge, brick phones that they used to use in the car. And this was kind of a little bit smaller. It kind of fit in your hand nicely. And it had this little antenna.
But it was just so funny how it's like she won it the first week, and then we went to the game the following week, and then they picked my seat in Maple Leaf Gardens too the next week, and I was like, oh, so we were all excited. Anyways, and the sad thing is though, we really haven't won anything since then.
Yeah, that's been the highlight as far as the winning goes of any of the contests or promos that they have, unfortunately.
Yeah. But what's a memory you have?
One of my favorite memories is it was during all of that, media frenzy that was around the playoffs in the 92-93 season. And it was during that season against the second series against St. Louis. And I remember how hot the day was and the games that we were going to. We had bought tickets at the time. And we had decided that we were superstitious and we were going to wear the same t-shirts to every game. And I remember the Sun, I guess, was interviewing people just like on the street in front of Maple Leaf Gardens. And I remember getting interviewed and talking about that, the fact that we haven't changed our shirts. And it was so hot.
That. I remember being hot, but I don't remember the Toronto Sun part.
I do. I don't know. Maybe I was just dreaming it. But anyway, but I do remember that. And I remember that game lasted so long. I think it was like around 1 a.m. or something when it finished. It was so hot in Maple Leaf Gardens that it was, unfortunate that we had decided that we weren't going to change the shirts because, it was a pretty sweaty night in there.
Yeah.
So, that's one of the ones that I remember.
Yeah. And another one that I remember too, my second one that I picked out was, I guess, the road trip going to Montreal when it was the return of Pat Burns and going there and just being in the Montreal Forum. Like those old buildings, like nothing is the same like that time. And just the vibe there and it's the usual thing, even like the way it is today, the way the LeafsNation takes over the Bell Center and they come here and the Hab fans come here and kind of do the same. But I think we're better personally, LeafsNation. But yeah, that game at the Forum and that we won and just after the game too, I remember Wendell Clark going across the bench and saying something to Pat Burns. And it was just like, I don't know, you just don't have that sort of connection to the team as much, or it's a different connection back then. But that was a huge moment. I remember standing outside, like across the road from the Forum, and they had those escalators that were like shaped like the hockey stick, sort of, right? The lights on the hockey sticks. It was just I don't know, you really knew that you were seeing a game that was somewhere historical, sort of, and then the two forever rivals, the Leafs and the Habs, sort of thing. So that was my other memory, and I won't mention the fact that it wasn't in that. I don't think it was that trip, but how we missed the bus and had.
No, I think we were walking
in the snowstorm.
I don't know how many kilometers in the wrong direction, trying to find the crepe place that we wanted to go to.
That's another story.
Oh, it's terrible. Yeah.
Anyways.
Yeah. Anyways, so many funny things. So my second one I'm going to mention is a recent one, and this is also from a road trip. Is when we were watching them in Vegas, and we were fortunate enough this time around to get very reasonably priced. We were so lucky, seats pretty much right at the glass, so like 3 seats, 3 rows up, and it was at the end that the Leafs were scoring on, I guess, twice. And that was, I don't know if people remember, but that game was like Austin Matthews had one hell of a game that night. And one of the goals that he scored, he basically scored it and then he wrapped around for his celly and he celebrated right in front of Christine and I, who were on our
have that vision.
And
I have that vision coming at me right now.
Yeah. And he was like right in our face celebrating with us. That was a moment that I will never forget.
Yeah, no, that was, we've never had that type of, I guess, connection, especially now in today's game, with the player coming right at us. That was phenomenal. Yeah. Something we'll both never forget. That's for sure. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But so we have so many great memories. Like we've mentioned a couple of them anyways for each of us, but we could go on forever about it. But we need to get into today's Leafs with our update segment.
Mm-hmm. So obviously it's been pretty much crickets in Leafland, and not much has happened since our last episode, which we kind of thought would be the case. They're kind of laying low, so to speak. So we decided to create our own little Leaf update, and we posed a few questions to LeafsNation on social media. And this is basically what had come back from that.
Yeah, so thank you for your feedback, first of all, for the people that actually voted on the polls and gave us suggestions and comments on Facebook and Twitter. And our handle there is at LTL 1917. We chose 3 questions out of the 5 that we asked, 3 questions that were most interesting in terms of the results of the poll. So the first question that we chose was, will Kyle Dubas make a deal in the coming weeks or months ahead? And if so, who do you think the Leafs should trade? So the choices we gave were Jake Muzzin, Alexander Kerfoot, and Rasmus Sandin, and other. And surprisingly, it was surprising because the results were very even between the 3 players. I put Rasmus Sandin in there because as an option, because I thought to myself, everybody's going to say Nylander, right? So I just thought, I'm going to change it up a bit. And because of the stuff that's going on with Sandin now, where he's not signed, I thought I'd put him in there and just get the vibe from Leafs. Let us get the vibe from LeafsNation as to how they're feeling. And basically, Muzzin got 29% of the vote, Kerfoot got 31% of the vote, and Sandin got 26% of the vote. And other was 14%, and those were mainly, they mentioned Hall and Nylander, which are the usual, like they've been spoken about for quite some time. So, yeah, I just thought it was very interesting that it's almost like LeafsNation is saying, you know what? We've had this happen with Nylander, I guess, a few years back, and he managed to get paid and right down to the wire. And Sandin now thinks he's going to do the same. But I'm hoping that Kyle Dubas doesn't cave to him this time, like the way he did with Nylander. At least that's how I think of it.
I don't think there's any way that happens because honestly, like, he does not have the same leverage that Nylander has, or even had at that time. Like think about the great season Nylander was coming off of at that point. He played so many games. Sandin has been in and out of the lineup. He's really yet to prove himself, and they kind of need to find a spot for him too. So I don't think that they're in any hurry.
Whereas Nylander too. I mean, he was basically with Austin Matthews as his right-hand man at the time, right. Sort of, right? Mm-hmm. He's the one who started with him. And so he established himself as a top winger on the team. And Sandin hasn't done that. So I don't know. And I didn't know, you mentioned to me before the show, you had known that Sandin has the same agent as Nylander.
That's right.
I didn't know that until yesterday, but I thought, oh God, I wonder what he thinks, what he's trying to do here. But I don't think he's gonna. Yeah, he's just played around. We've spoken about this before, but Sandin has only played about 80 NHL games. So there's in and out of the lineup, injuries. I mean, he's a great player, or I think he has the potential to be a great defenseman or a really good one for us, but he's not there yet, and he hasn't proven it. So he needs to give his head a shake a little bit.
But I mean, agents don't have that many things that they can do, right?
Yeah.
So holding out is one of their tactics. So I think they're going to push it as far as they can. But, he's a youngish player still. It's not going to help his development at all to be sitting out. So hopefully once training camp starts, they'll get back to talking and they'll get something done fairly quickly. Is there anything else of these, well, I mean, these choices that kind of stood out to you or surprised you at all?
I mean, the one with Muzzin maybe a little bit, because although people have been talking about him a little bit, but it's tough because he's a leader in the room and he's won a cup too. And we just don't, that experience we need. I'm hoping again, I think last year, when he came into camp, he was already injured. That's the whole thing. That's what.
Yes, I agree.
And that's what basically the whole year was a write-off for him, the regular season. But I'm hoping this year, there hasn't been much talk about them. I hope when he comes to camp and they do the player interviews that he says that he's back to feeling good. Like John Tavares has said that. He's raring to go, JT. He's last year he said just from that whole injury, that major head injury that he had in the playoffs the previous year against the Habs in game 1. He just said that it took a lot. He was almost 100%, let's just say, at the beginning of the year, but all that rehab and that for an athlete, I guess it takes a lot out of them to actually perform the way they want to, just by going through all that rehab. But
for sure.
But yeah.
And I think that it's hard to do in season to be able to, really rehab. That's definitely easier to, be able to focus on, during the off season, which, they're getting to do now. So I expect for sure JT is going to come back really good this year. And hopefully Muzzin will also.
And Kerfoot was, he's been spoken about almost as much as Nylander all the time when it comes to being traded. But I've been reading some articles lately, and it's true. To have a player that versatile, making I don't know if it's 3.5 million or just over 3 million that he makes, to be able to play both on the wing, penalty kill. He plays a little bit on the second power play, I believe, and he can play center. How many players in the league have that, right?
Can do all that?
Yeah. For that price, not many. So I don't know. Something has to be done, obviously, over the next little while, because we're still over the cap by about $1.5 million. So, yeah.
All right. So the next question we asked was about who should play the left wing alongside Tavares and Nylander. And the choices that we gave were Nick Robertson, Pierre Engvall, Tavares moving to the wing, or other. And the overwhelming winner on this question was Nick Robertson with a 52% share of the votes. Engvall got 18.5% of the vote, Tavares moving to the wing 13%, and other choices were 17%, and a few people said Kelly Yarncroc and Alex Kerfoot. So what surprised you or caught your eye with the results with this one?
Yeah, I expected Nick Robertson to get the majority. I just hope the kid can stay healthy and he basically has to prove that he belongs there still, right? And Sheldon Keefe has to. I said it in a tweet that I put out. The NHL actually put out a tweet saying, "Will Nick Robertson become a steady top 6 player for the Leafs in hopefully this season. And I said, yeah, he will, but he needs to basically be given the minutes by Sheldon Keefe. And then once he's given those minutes on the top, like on a line with, let's say, Tavares and Nylander, like he needs to basically produce, and he needs to basically get that trust with Sheldon Keefe to say that he belongs there, basically. And if he doesn't, then whatever, then we got to go move to another option, which I don't know, like we'll get into Calle Jarnkrok in a bit, but what do you think about with Nick Robertson?
Well, I agree with that, but the one thing is that I hope they give him a little bit of rope, because he is a young player. He's going to make mistakes. He probably, even if he has a couple really good games where he scores or whatever, if he drops off a bit, they need to give him a little bit of time and commit to him playing there for a while before, demoting him or whatever. They seem to sometimes, jump the gun a little bit and pivot too quickly. And I think, for the first, 20 games or so, they got to give him some more time.
Yeah, no, for sure. He's only 20 years old.
They're going to try that.
Right? And he's,
yeah.
But I mean, he came back from a significant injury last year with the Marlies breaking the fibula or tibula. I forget which one it was. I think it was tibula.
Broke his leg.
Don't want to be too medical with my words here. But anyhow, and then he was like a top producer he got a lot of points with the Marlies. Mm-hmm. So,
it's just the whole thing though with him too is that, he is sometimes a little reckless, like not reckless in the way, what's his face was, who's not on our team anymore. Oh gosh, I like totally blanking on the name. Anyways,
Hyman?
Sorry?
No.
He's
Kasha.
not a big guy.
Yes.
That's it. Yes.
You can't move.
See how quickly we forget.
You can't move on from when you can't remember.
That's right.
We got to figure it out. Anyways.
But he tends to be like a little bit, reckless with, the way he throws his body around, and it's not that big a body.
Yeah.
So he's got to make sure that he plays a smart game and gets himself in the right position and uses his energy well, because the guy just hustles and, but he's going to have to manage his energy a little bit better for the NHL, I think.
And I think Haley Wickenheiser, I think she mentioned that a while ago too about Nick Robertson, and hopefully like she's had discussions with him too about that and controlling or putting his energy in the right places right?
Yeah, like you don't want to ever try to rein a guy in, because like obviously that is a huge asset. Yeah. It's just getting him to use that in a smarter way, I guess. So.
Yeah. And I was a little bit surprised with the Pierre Engvall. I put him in there because I did actually see on social media before we did the poll, I saw his name out there and I was like, oh, well, let's see what kind of love Pierre Engvall has for going on the left side. But then I thought, well, he has a connection with Nylander a little bit, right? The two Swedish players. And so I don't know. So he got 18.5% of the vote. And I thought a lot more people would have said to have Tavares go to the wing. But no. And then, Calle Jarnkrok is the guy that I didn't know too much about. So I did a little bit of research, and what I wanted to know, because he spent 8 seasons with Nashville, like that's most time that he spent. And and he was mainly in that middle of the lineup of the second or third line player. So he had average playing time of about 15 to 16 minutes a night, which is basically, I mean, it would be probably a couple more minutes if he ended up on the line with JT and Nylander. But he's apparently, I'm going to be looking out for this now, because every article I read, it said that he has a really good shot. So I'm going to be looking for that shot if he does get the, wherever he is, whether it be on the second or third line. I'm going to be looking for that shot. But the guy that I also thought that should get a shot at it on that left side would be the Nicolas Aube-Kubel. So but then because I was looking at him a little bit more too, because he is an energy guy, right? He's a guy that I think Bleav fans are going to like. We talked a little bit about him before when he got signed at free agency in our last episode. But yeah, but I guess he's only been in the league 5 years, and the average ice time that he's had is only 10 minutes, around 10 minutes. So he hasn't really. But then I was thinking, because he's only 26. So I'm thinking, well, maybe he needs to be on a team where he's given more of an opportunity, let's just say, right? And maybe he's been in the league a few years now. Like maybe the Sheldon Keefe will want to experiment a little bit and see if he can use that energy on that second line and give him those minutes.
You're thinking of trying to kind of recreate a second line version of the first line.
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. So I don't know.
Because it's the same sort of makeup. And in this case, you've got Willie as the playmaker, who also has a great shot. You've got, JT, who can be like, more of a net front presence, which is kind of different, I guess. But then, the plugger who's going to, get in the tough spots and dig out the puck and all of that.
Get under the skin
with Obey-Kubel and get under the skin. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, we'll see what they do. Like, Keefe usually gets pretty creative with the assets that he has, especially at the start. So I guess we'll see what he decides to do there.
Yeah, so going on to our third question that we are going to review here, that we had on our Ladies Talking Leafs poll. We wanted to talk about this goal song issue that everybody seems to be talking about, and we really haven't said much about it. So we decided that we just want to see what some ideas we have and what you have. So apparently not a lot of people out there like You Make My Dreams Come True by Hall & Oates. And I don't know, we got used to it, I guess, hearing it at Scotiabank Arena at the games. But and I like Hall & Oates. I think Sil likes them pretty good too. Yeah, they're okay, sort of thing, right? Mm-hmm. But anyways, we put the question out to see what gold song would you prefer if the Leafs decide to change it. And the options we gave were The Boys Are Back in Town by Thin Lizzy, which that got 14% of the vote. Let's Get Loud by J-Lo, and that also got 14% of the vote. And Raise a Little Hell by Trooper, and that got 43% of the vote. So that was the overwhelming winner. And Other was 29%. The funny thing is, and this is what I find a lot on when this question comes up on social media, we didn't get a lot of suggestions in the comments to say, okay.
I know people will say what they don't like, but they don't say what they do like.
And I'm like, then one of our top fans from Facebook, Paul Baker, he gave a good one that I thought was good anyways, was You Ain't Seen Nothing Yet by BTO. That was kind of a song that I thought could go well as a
I don't know if it's upbeat, if there's like a part of it that is upbeat enough.
Oh yeah,
I think the Raise a Little Hell one is interesting to me.
And
even though I don't love that song, like I remember at school dances when they would play it, I
oh really?
Not like it, but it got everybody going, like everybody's got their arms up and it's a Canadian tune. So I could see that one going over well.
The thing is, one thing I do want to mention here, these choices that we gave the three, it was truly a family event here that we did in our choices on social media, because the first one, The Boys Are Back in Town, I thought would have gotten a little bit more love. That was chosen or given as a choice or suggestion by Sil's son. Mm-hmm. And then I gave the Let's Get Loud by J-Lo, because I thought, it's a little bit more diverse. We have a diverse fan base, so we want to get into that kind of thing. And it's something that you can get into. You can go, hey, hey, hey. Like I'm not going to sing the song because I'm not J-Lo, that's for sure. And then the Raise a Little Hell was given by my nephew as the option. So yeah, it was truly a family event in this one, because we were trying to get some ideas, but we would have loved to have some more ideas from our, I guess our
Yeah, so, if anybody's got any ideas, shoot them out to us. We'd be happy to mention this as we go forward.
Yeah,
in the
DM
season.
us or send us an email, ladiestalkingleafs@gmail.com, or DM us on social media. Let us know if you have any suggestions for a song, for a goal song, another goal song. Personally, I think it's going to stay the same this season again.
Yeah, like we haven't heard anything to say that the goal song is going to be changed, so we can't get too excited about it. But anyway, it's something we can get excited about is moving on to our third period segment and the details about our anniversary contest.
Yes. So what you've all been waiting for, details of our third anniversary contest. We're excited about it. This year we have another great prize pack of Leaf items and a Tim's gift card. And Syl going to give you details on how to win this fantastic prize.
That's right. That's right. To win the prize, all you have to do is go to our Instagram page and follow us if you aren't already. Find our anniversary post and like it, and comment by tagging 2 friends. The deadline to enter is September 30th, and that's all you got to do. And we will also post the info about our contest on our Twitter and Facebook pages, and also on our website. And you'll be able to enter through that as well. And we'll give the links to our Instagram for you to enter. And the contest is open to anyone in Canada and the US. We are going to think about something to do for our more global listeners. We're trying to think of something that we can include everybody. But since Tim Hortons isn't everywhere, that makes it a little bit more difficult.
Yeah. But it's exciting. Our third anniversary. Can't believe it's 3 years still, but we're going to be going into season 4 soon. And just if you want to win this prize, you got to go and enter. So, and believe me, I know about entering contests. Unfortunately, I can't enter our own contest. So
no, you can't, even though you love Tim Hortons.
I love Tim Hortons,
the Leafs. And anyway, we do so encourage you to do so because we want to be able to celebrate you. And this is our way of being able to give back to you. So please, definitely, everybody enter.
So before we go, we just want to mention that there is a four-part documentary series coming up about the 1972 Summit Series on CBC that starts on September 14th. It's the 50th anniversary of that historical hockey series. We were only little kids then, but from what our parents told us about that time, it was unreal how the whole country was basically shut down anytime there was a game on between Canada and Russia. It was just just a different. A totally different time, basically. And I looked at some, both Syl and I are into hockey history, obviously, especially for the Leafs, but also Team Canada. And I was looking some of the videos of the games and how intense that series was. And and I got mixed up. Actually, speaking of nastiness, I got mixed up. I had the wrong player. I didn't realize it was Phil Esposito that was in the penalty box doing the cutthroat symbol at a Russian player, Boris Mikhailov. I was like, oh my! I thought it was Guy Lapointe that did that, but it was Phil Esposito. And I was watching the video again, and he's doing the cutthroat symbol, and then he points to him, and he points to himself, and then to the player Boris Mikhailov, saying like, "We're gonna get at it together," sort of thing, right? And it was just. The game was totally different back then. It was like really good old hockey game, let's say. And and it was a different time, obviously, when it came down to obviously the two different types of political views, being the communists and democracy here in the West. And then it was the first time really like the NHL players saw the different game that the Russians played. And then, from there, from that series, for sure, our game here in the NHL changed. Like it
100%. Yeah.
And
I was just going to say that it was really, we owe today's game to those events. Yeah. And so it's so significant, to the history of our sport.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And
I was thinking too that, we have that goal by Paul Henderson that is so celebrated. Our younger generations have, Sidney Crosby's golden goal, for example, at the Olympics. And for, generations before that, Paul Henderson's goals still stand the test of time. And if you talk to people of a certain generation, they will regale you with stories of that moment.
Yeah. 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 No, for sure. It was something that you knew, like they say, you knew where you were in that, when you're watching the games of that series. So yeah, check that out. It's a 4-part documentary series, starts on September 14th. I know I'm going to be watching it because there's going to be, footage, I guess, new footage, from the games that were never seen before. So that'll be cool to see. And yeah, so again, Leafs Nation, be sure to follow us on social media, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Our handle is at LTL1917. And we're now on the Bleav Network. And over the coming months, we're excited for the opportunity to make improvements to the show, and it's all for you. Also, a reminder to be sure to leave us a rating or review and let us know what you think of the show. It's easy on Apple and Spotify, and it's important for our show to get more exposure as a source for Leaf content.
And another way to help us out is by visiting our Ko-fi page at Ko-fi.com. You can follow us there, and if you choose to, you can support us by buying us a coffee. Any donation goes towards helping us produce the show and making it even better for you. Here you can also find a photo gallery of many of our Leafs memories and you can find a link to our Ko-fi page on our show notes or in any of our social media profile pages.
Yeah, so thank you to our healthcare workers and first responders for everything they do. Hopefully we're getting through this pandemic. Like it's hopefully almost over. I don't know if you can say it's ever over, but we always have to thank our healthcare workers and first responders for getting us through this and continuing their work to keep us all safe.
And we just want to say one last thank you to you, our listeners. We so appreciate you. And until next time,
go Leafs,
go Leafs, go.